Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stand. How are you all doing this fine morning? Because we've got 5 big stories to discuss on the Transfer News show this morning. Get your comments in as always. We're going to be talking about Jadon Sancho wanting a move to PSG. This is breaking news in the last 12 hours. We've also got Ugarte demanding a move to Manchester United. This is coming in from Fabrizio Romano. Also Fabrizio Romano giving an update on Fofana, which is very firm, I would say concrete. There is also a story about Ivan Toney potentially coming to Manchester United on a loan to buy deal. Remember, we've spoken about this quite a lot, about how Ivan Toney isn't going anywhere and could be worth a punt from United late in the window. And an update on Jarrad Branthwaite, which is quite a justification for us as a community because we've spoken about this. Apparently people have been taking the piss out of this story, saying we're making it up. Why do we need to make stuff up? There's loads of stuff about Man United. You could literally do 10 shows a day about all the shit that gets written about United. So we'll talk about that. And also the fallout from Luke Shaw continues. Do you feel sorry for Luke Shaw? There are people out there arguing with people saying that we should feel sorry for Luke Shaw. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's loads to get into on the show this morning, though. Hope you're well. We'll delve into some of your comments as well. But I suppose the best place to start this morning is probably in relation to what Fabrizio Romano is saying with regards to the situation with both Fofana and both Ugarte, I suppose, is more important. However, I do want to talk about Jadon Sancho. Apparently, he wants to go to PSG and PSG want him. Fabrice Hawkins from The Athletic, who is a French expert, has been speaking about this. And very interesting as well what he is saying. But this is what Fabrizio has had to say in the last hour in relation to Ugarte. Because to be honest, if we're ranking things out of importance to us, well, certainly to me, yes, it's interesting about Sancho. Yes, it's interesting about Branthwaite, Toney, Shaw and Fofana. But the big deal is Ugarte. That's the one that's going to get us the most excited. So what's happening for Fabrizio this morning? Here he is. Not really. He's on a Monday. He says, Manuel Ugarte is insisting a lot for Manchester United move, which I think puts to bed a lot of the fallout from Zubimendi snubbing Liverpool a couple of days ago. There was a bit of a reaction, maybe a bit of, tomfoolery or shit stirring or trolling that Ugarte could end up going to Liverpool now. I don't think that's impossible, but I think the chances of it are probably less than 5%. It's very clear that every player that Man United have spoken to this summer has committed to wanting to come to Man United. And I think you can take Lenny Yoro as the example of that. That to me was the real head turner because I just went on evidence. You don't get a player that wants to go to Real Madrid. And we did. So I don't think we need to worry about being hijacked by anybody for any of our targets. I'm not saying it wouldn't or couldn't happen. Anything's possible. But I think the way United have acted this summer, De Ligt didn't really want to leave Bayern Munich, but he's ecstatic about coming to United. Yoro would have been thinking about Real Madrid, but he's clearly happy coming to Manchester United. And Ugarte, as Fabrizio says, is insisting on Man United. PSG and Man United are still in talks, but Ugarte is insisting that he wants the Man United move and he wants it quickly. George Mendes is leading the negotiations with PSG, who are open to selling Ugarte, and United are still keen. This is all from Fabrizio this morning. The final part, I'll apologise for. I'm pretty sure Fabrizio will say it's repetition. United need the fee to be reduced, or they need a sale, or they will have to go for a cheaper option. Now, that's the negative in there. I personally don't think we're going to see that negative materialise because it's such a public negative. So basically the story is Manuel Ugarte wants Man United. Man United want Ugarte. PSG want to sell Ugarte, but Man United need the price to come down or they need to sell a player. And if neither of those things happen, they'll go for a cheaper option like Amrabat or Sander Berge. That can't happen. That can't happen. Brog says, what's wrong with Shaw? Oh, no. Oh, no. Brog. I never thought about that. The chat never thought about that. There's always going to be somebody that was busy last night and is watching the show not aware of what's going on. Yeah, he's out till after the international break. We'll talk about it later, bruv. Are we still sniffing around Fofana, says Phil? I've got a story on Fofana. I'll give it you actually in a moment. Colin Bolger's gifted a membership, and Oki has given a super chat as well. We'll let him down gently, says Bike Geist. Yeah, I'll leave it to the chat. We will talk about it in a bit, though. But just to talk about Ugarte. So, yes, he wants United. We want him. PSG want to sell him, but the price has got to come down or we've got to sell a player. And if that doesn't happen, we'll end up with a cheap option like Sander Berge or Amrabat. I think we have to acknowledge the reality of that situation, but can you actually walk that reality where we don't sign Ugarte and we sign Sander Berge because we can't get the price down or we can't sell a midfielder? That would be an acceptance of defeat of the magnitude that I don't think Ineos will swallow. I just don't think they'll go, we know you want us, we know you want to sell him to us, and we really want him, but we're signing Sander Berge because we can't afford it. You know, I just think that's an acceptance of defeat that belonged in a Glazer era. I think Ineos will go, this is the player, like De Ligt, that we have decided will be transformative. If we walk away from this deal to sign Sander Berge, and at Christmas we're fighting for 6th because the midfield's fallen apart, we'll only have ourselves to blame. We have to do everything in our power to make Ugarte become a Man United player. And I think that's what they'll be doing at the moment. And I think the key thing is selling a midfielder. I still think selling a midfielder is going to be the way to do this because we have to. We've got too many midfielders as it is. And I think that's what will happen. But look, it's still very positive about Ugarte. But there is still that fear that there are other options out there. But significant update around Ugarte and certainly one that we should be focused on. Now, I will just stick with Romano because I want to talk about Sancho and PSG. But I do just want to stick with Romano very quickly because we've spoken about Fofana, Youssouf Fofana, quite a lot on this channel. And it's funny, actually, because this will fit nicely with Branthwaite updates, which apparently will go to the wire and still can happen. But we've spoken quite a lot. A lot of people saying sell McTominay and Sancho as well. Yeah, Sancho could you know, still funds, isn't it? I think we'll talk about Sancho next. But just on Fofana, we were literally talking about Fofana last night, weren't we? And I said that I feel that Fofana, there was that story from Sky Italy about Man United being ahead of Milan for Fofana. And I said, look, it's only opinion, but if you do something, when you're at school and you get taught GCSE maths, you don't know anything about it. And then by the end of it, you know a lot about it, unless you're me. You don't take any bloody notice because you're talking about football and you don't know hardly anything about it. But you learn from something from somebody else. And I think football fans never get the credit for this. It's like everything in life. If you start a job tomorrow as a welder, you know, those people who magic metal together, on your first day, you haven't got a bloody clue how to do it. And an expert's teaching you. And after a few months, you become the expert because you've learnt from them. I don't think as football fans, we ever give ourselves credit for this. We live in the shadows and we shouldn't. We should step into the light because if you watch football from the age of 7 till 37, that's 30 years of watching football. Unless you're a moron, what are you actually doing? You're learning. And if you watch transfer windows and consume news about transfers over 10, 20 years, you learn patterns and the way things work. So my feeling on Fofana, and I said it to you last night, and I'm sure many of you felt the same, is, well, we've even got our own 5 principles, haven't we? It's complete bullshit. It's totally true. It's an agent using our name. It's a club using our name, or they want a new contract where they are. And basically, I said last night, it feels to me like it's the agent using Manchester United to get AC Milan to pay what Monaco want. And we've been linked to Fofana for about 4 weeks now, and I've never felt like it, you know, I've never felt it was even Sander Berge concrete, let alone Ugarte. It just felt like, oh, we want Fofana, we're leading the race for Fofana. But I've never felt like it was genuine, like we were in for him. It felt like we were being used. Well, this is what Fabrizio has said this morning. Fofana has been clear with all clubs approaching him since July. He wants to play for AC Milan. Several reports on Premier League clubs being keen, but it was never close as Fofana is waiting for Milan. Milan and Monaco still working on club-to-club agreement. So basically, we're right. We're right. What we've been saying all week, and probably for weeks, certainly we were speaking about it on last night's show, is it doesn't feel like we're in for Fofana. It feels like Man United's name being used to facilitate another move. And yeah, we're not in for Fofana, are we? It's clearly not the case. So I think we can park Fofana now. I'm not saying that. I even said last night I'd rather have Fofana over Sander Berge, and I would. There's a good player there. But all I'm saying is sometimes we will get linked to players that we're not actually in for. And I think it's very, very clear that we aren't actually in for him. Right, let's talk about Jadon Sancho. The Independent have spoken about a loan with an obligation to buy for Ivan Toney. We're going to talk about that. The Mail are talking about Branthwaite deal going to the wire. Well, remember, it was the Mail who broke the story about Branthwaite, so that's very, very significant, especially for those people who have tried to take the piss out of the United stand for talking about a Branthwaite deal still being possible. We don't need to make stories up, because if you've been doing this long enough, you know where to find the stories, like we did 2 days ago about Sancho and PSG in France that are now coming out into the press over here. And 2, we certainly aren't interested in beef and petty little arguments. You know, we're here to do our thing the way we do it, and love and respect to everybody else who's doing their thing. Right, let's move on. This is Sancho time, and this is coming out of France, and this is very significant. So, Fabrice Hawkins, who is a writer for The Athletic in France, says that Manchester United are actively negotiating with PSG for Manuel Ugarte. That's absolutely fine. We've already spoken about that about Fabrizio Romano, but I'm just giving some context just because people might go, "Who's Fabrice Hawkins?" You should know who he is. He's a journalist for RMC in France, and he does stuff with The Athletic. Jadon Sancho wants to play for PSG, but Man United want more than 60 million euros for Sancho. So Sancho wants to play for PSG, but Man United want more than 60 million euros for him. Further to that, it goes on to say that no agreement will be reached this week for Sancho and PSG, as it is not a simple matter. And also, PSG have got as far as offering a salary to Jadon Sancho, but that's coming in from a different source, which is at Foot Mercato. So a lot of these French stories are now hitting the mainstream in the UK about Sancho. That Adidas advert is amazing, Ian Warren. Absolutely amazing. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. The only slight fly in the ointment was seeing Luke Shaw in it, because it's just not good timing. But yeah, just the music, brilliant. And I loved Angry Ginger in it as well. I mean, that's the club should be doing stuff more like that. You know, I'd rather see them hitting that sort of audience than the crappy mainstream audience, to be honest. But I thought it was very, very good. The Adidas one, yeah. Loved the music as well. But anyway, look, back up where we're at. It was a brilliant advert. And it's not, I very rarely, when Man United do things well, I don't like winning team shit, but, there's a class to what with that. That advert's got class. That's what United should always be to me. Not playing for likes. That was class. Right, let me talk to you about Jadon Sancho. So there's no point doing a poll about Jadon Sancho going to PSG. I don't think anybody would be bothered about him going there. The 60 million euro price tag Man United are putting on, do you think that is right? That, to me, I think that's United saying to PSG, you want a ridiculous fee for Ugarte, so we want a ridiculous fee for Sancho. And I think United are being quite clever here. Now, assuming this is all true, if United want 60 million euros for Sancho, and I've seen a lot of people online saying, what the bloody hell are we doing? We're being petty, says Isa. It's way too much. Yeah, I completely agree. But think of it like this. If Ugarte's worth £50 million, are Man United not right to say that Sancho's worth £50 million? I mean, when you think about it, Ugarte went from Sporting Lisbon to PSG and has not established himself as a starting player. Jadon Sancho went from Dortmund to Man United, not established himself as a first-team player, but then went on loan to Dortmund and played in a Champions League final. Look, Ugarte is more valuable to us because we want to sell Sancho, but in the cold, harsh facts, if you got a neutral, you get a neutral and say, what's the value of Ugarte, a holding midfielder, and what's the value of Jadon Sancho, an attacking winger who will create and potentially score goals? If Ugarte is worth more than Sancho, it can only be about 5 million, 10 million max. It's not like there's a massive disparity. So if PSG want 60 million euros for Ugarte, I think United saying we want 60 million euros for Sancho is not a bad idea in the negotiations, because I don't think there's a massive amount of difference. The only risk factor is how much the PSG want Sancho. Because if they don't really want him, you're playing a dangerous game. But if they do want him, you're playing a good game. And maybe that's what Fabrice Hawkins is talking about, that this deal is not going to happen this week because there's a lot of moving parts. So Tom Grant says, would a swap be out of the question? I don't think swaps take place anymore in the sense of Mkhitaryan for Sanchez. I think you get technical swaps where, I'm trying to think of one. There's been a few, hasn't there? Everton and Villa have done them. Villa and Chelsea have done a few this summer. Basically what you do is you don't swap. You go, we'll pay you £40 million for this player, and then you give us £35 million for that player. So it's a technical swap. It's not a swap deal. You give money for that, and then you give money for that. And I think that could happen. But look, Sancho to PSG would be a great deal all round. I think Jadon Sancho in the French league, much the same as Mason Greenwood, to coin a phrase, will cook. The bottom half of the French league is shite. Joey Barton played well in the French league. Joe Cole tore it up in the French league. Like, I'm not being, disingenuous. The bottom half of the French league is absolutely shit. So there's a real opportunity for him to go and do well there. I think it's interesting that I think the most interesting thing for me is that, one, we're going to have to watch this space because I don't think this is going to be a quick conclusion. But two, Jadon Sancho wants to leave Man United. And again, I think a lot of people miss this because in the world of Player FC, and we had it with Greenwood, bring the star boy home, I constantly said Mason Greenwood doesn't want to come back. No, people are like, oh, forget the past, bring him back, but he doesn't want to come back. And the same thing happens with Sancho because he has got a fan club. Oh, bring the star boy back, get him involved. I don't think Sancho wants to stay. I think Man United, Jadon Sancho and Erik ten Hag sat together at the start of July and said, look, you want to go, we want you to go. But if you don't go, you're a Man United player. And also, if you do want to go, and we do want you to go, the best chance of you going is if everything appears to be going well. So that's what happened. I think they're still all working for Sancho to leave, and they know the best way for that to happen is for him to be involved training and smiling. And also, if you don't get a move, you need to be here anyway. So it's in everybody's interest that we all get on well. So I think that's where we are. I think it's very obvious that Jadon Sancho would like to move. And obviously, PSG would probably be a good move for him. Let's just catch up on some of your comments because we still have got two big stories to discuss around Ivan Toney. Three big stories, actually. Branthwaite and Luke Shaw. Nearly 20,000 watching again. Absolute legends this morning. Thank you very much. Show's getting bigger and bigger. We're only 48 hours away from Man United's first game. We've got a preview tonight. Assuming we don't get a here we go today, we've got a preview tonight, which I'm very excited for. A live preview of the Fulham game. If Dortmund were selling Sancho right now, they would get 60 million because United are the sellers. We won't get 60 million, says Martin. Sticks says Sancho is nowhere near 60 million, 25 max. No one wants him. If Ineos pull this off, it's huge. You're worth what you're worth, mate. That's what I mean. The interesting thing here is that PSG clearly see a value in Jadon Sancho. And if you see a value in Jadon Sancho, there's a good player there. He's worth nothing if no one wants him. Marcus Rashford's worth nothing because no one wants him. Well, that's inaccurate. If Man United said Marcus Rashford's for sale at £50 million, we'd get buyers. But for the price we would want, no one wants him. No one wants Harry Maguire for the price we would want. So you're only your only value is if people want you. Like Mason Greenwood is more valuable than Marcus Rashford because people will pay what we want for Mason Greenwood. Kambwala is more valuable than Harry Maguire because people will pay what we want for Kambwala, which is why sometimes you sell players that the fans don't want to sell because clubs want to buy them and you need to sell. Do you think we will sell McTominay? Says Amma. I think McTominay needs to go for multiple reasons, but as I've said before, I think until he holds the shirt up, I won't believe it. I think he needs to go for himself. He should be playing first team football at 27. He's only ever going to be a bit part player at United. I mean, you only get one career. He's done amazingly well to make it. I mean, we all wish we played for Man United, and Scott McTominay does and has. But you only get one career, and I think he'll look back in 10 years' time at being 27 and the opportunity to play Premier League football week in, week out, and now is the time to go and do it. And I think he'd do a good job at a lot of those clubs that want him as well, the Evertons and the Fulhams. 50 million plus Ugarte in exchange for Rashford and Sancho, huge reduction in wage bill, and a statement that no brand is bigger than the club, says Merced. Never going to happen. The Scandinavian Supporter Club has an article on their website which is about Sander Berge and how he lacks quality to play for a club like United, says Mickey. Interesting that that's coming in from the Scandinavian Supporters Club website. I wouldn't mind the link to read that, actually. I love your work, says Sub. Well, I love you for watching. Based on this transfer window, how do you think how long it will take just challenging for the Premier League? I think 3 years is what I'm looking at. 3 years. This year, get in the top 4. Next year, stay in the top 4. The year after that, challenge for the title. But, and I don't want to get people too excited because I've got a video going up on That's Football about Man City getting relegated at 11. But if Man City did get relegated, next season all bets are off. If we can progress, I think there's a lot of clubs silently thinking this year is prep. Because if Man City get thrown out the league, next year it's wide open again. And I think there's a lot of clubs, Chelsea, Newcastle, Spurs, Villa, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, who are thinking, you might have a 2-year plan, you might have a 3-year plan, but actually it wouldn't be a bad idea to be ready for the start of next season as well. But, you know, Man City might still be here. Morning, Mark. Ugarte deal is crucial, says Paddy. Also, I'd rather keep McTominay than sign Sander Berge, says Paddy. Daily Blin, Frankie de Jong and Tadic next, says Grace. And if we sell a midfielder or two, bringing Ugarte in a left-back, then I think it's a solid transfer window, says Drayson. Sean Patty, welcome to Members Club. Sky Sports, Slow Sports News, still say we're in for de Jong, says Casey. Are we still sniffing around for Fofana? We've done that one from Phil as well. Thanks for those super chats this morning. You're worth what another team is willing to pay, says Victor. Exactly. And Mark, as you always say, if Toney is good enough, why aren't the big clubs looking for him? And Shaw needs to go. Disrespect to the club. Consistency is key, says Abdul. We'll talk about Shaw and Toney in a moment. And Sean Turner says, Sancho and Ugarte swap makes the most sense. I fully expect McTominay deal to start moving after the Fulham game. Also, if we get Toney, who I desperately want and can keep players healthy, it'll be exciting, says Sean. And Aaron says, Sancho and 10 million for Ugarte, save on Sancho's wages, Maguire and 25 million for Branthwaite or Lindelof and 35 million. Dyche would lap up Maguire like a cat with milk, says Aaron. And with the collapse of the Gallagher deal, would you consider him? I like Conor Gallagher, Phil, but I don't think Manchester United are going to go anywhere near that. Let me just talk to you about Jarrad Branthwaite because it's been mentioned there, right? So the Mail have said, the Daily Mail in the UK have said that the Jarrad Branthwaite transfer could go to the wire, i.e. the last few days of the transfer window. That Man United don't want to pay any more than £60 million package for Branthwaite. I said this on Saturday and on Monday. Keep an eye on a third bid for Branthwaite. I haven't plucked that out my arse. Like, it's logical. You could predict it. But also, it's being discussed in the industry because Man United made 2 official bids for Branthwaite, 35 plus 8 and 45 plus 5. There's always been the belief that there's a third and final bid. And there's always been a rumour that United would do it late in the window just to say, there's the best and final offer. Do you want to take it before the window closes? United feel that if they put the third bid in now, with 2 weeks to go, Everton might think there's another bid to come, a fourth bid towards the end. So fully expect the chance that Man United will put in that third bid in the last few days. I don't know whether I don't know whether Everton will take it. Personally, I'd offer 50 plus 5 and see what they say, because we've already offered 45 plus 5. Where the money's coming from, as I said to you a couple of days ago, I've got no idea. Absolutely no idea where that money would come from, considering we're struggling to get Ugarte at the moment and there are left backs that need doing and some people would like a striker. So where that money comes from, I don't know. But I'll say it again, if we buy Branthwaite, we're having a party. Because we've already got De Ligt, we've already got Yoro. So even if you, and look, and I think De Ligt's a better player than Branthwaite. I think Yoro's a better signing than Branthwaite, but I like Branthwaite. So I'm not. It's like you saying. It's like someone saying to me, there's a Ferrari and there's a Porsche. Thank you, dream cars, but here's a Lamborghini. Well, all right. Yeah, I didn't want a Lamborghini because I prefer a Ferrari and a Porsche, but I'll take that Lamborghini. And that's, if they get Branthwaite, I ain't gonna shut up praising Ineos, because that to me would be what Klopp did last summer with his midfield, where he brought 3 midfielders in and revolutionised the midfield so that it was basically sorted for the next few years. And if we bring Branthwaite in, Martinez, Branthwaite left footers, Yoro, De Ligt right footers, 4 quality centre backs, Johnny Evans is the 5th, we're sorted. We're sorted. So I would love that Branthwaite deal to happen. All I'm saying is we shouldn't expect it and we shouldn't demand it. It will be a bonus. It will be a bonus. But they're saying in the Mail that it could go to the wire, and the expectation is that United will bid again. So what we were talking about on Saturday and what we were talking about Monday is absolutely categorically out there as a story and an expectation. So people laughing at it and ridiculing it, look, if you ain't got any information, that's your problem. But there's no need to make stuff up, because I would say going for Branthwaite, if you were making something up about Branthwaite, you would say, we're not buying Branthwaite anymore because it was De Ligt or Branthwaite. That's the 90%. If you're going to make a story up, you'd go, yeah, we're not in for Branthwaite now. We've got our 2 centre-backs. We're happy. But the story is actually that we will bid again. So let's see what happens. But that would most likely be the back end of the window. And I certainly would not be opposed to it. So let's wait and see what happens in that. Right, let's talk about Toney, and then we want to talk about Luke Shaw, don't we? In my opinion, 60 million for a bench option is way too much. Plus, I think we need reinforcements in the 6th role. Ugarte first priority for me, says Robert. But I think Branthwaite, a lot of clubs these days play. I mean, Vardiel plays left back for Man City. Ben White plays right back for Arsenal. Like, a lot of clubs now have these backup centre-backs who end up being the fullback. Look, what you want to do and what I want to do, I ain't going to knock it. I get what you mean. £60 million for a bench centre-back might be a lot of money. But on the other hand, Martinez missed the whole season last year. We don't have a left-footed centre-back. Also, Branthwaite was high priority from Ineos in February. So it's not necessarily about what we want. It's about what the club wants. Patrick Lynch says Toney will impact Rasmus and Xerxes. Media and some fans will demand Toney plays every game. You know what they will say, that we have 130 million worth of flops because we don't give them time to develop. Patrick, I think this is a great comment. I'm not comfortable with Ivan Toney signing for Man United, and I'll explain why in a moment. But I think you're right. I think there's a lot of negativity around United already in the media. And I think they would champion Ivan Toney because he's English. And on the other hand, they'd claim him as their signing and not Ten Hag's. So if Toney did well, it would be the media's signing, not Ten Hag's. And Ten Hag's signings would be flops, like Rasmus and Xerxes. So yeah, I think it could cause more problems. But my business head says that why is nobody going for Ivan Toney? I mean, Spurs have gone for Solanke. Chelsea have tried to buy this young kid from Spain. Ivan Toney lives in London. He plays and scores goals in the Premier League for Brentford. You wouldn't even need to move house or unsettle him to put him up front for Chelsea or Spurs. And they went no. So I'm telling you now, if you can smell smoke, there's probably a fire. There is a reason that Chelsea and Spurs aren't going near Ivan Toney. And you can do what you did with Sancho and Greenwood and go, oh, I don't really care, just put him up front for United. But I'm just telling you, I don't know what it is, but there's something there. It's bloody obvious. Because if I'm Spurs and I'm Chelsea, and maybe even if I'm Arsenal, we're having a three-way for Toney. Like, he is a Premier League proven striker. He will score goals for you, and nobody wants him out of those London clubs because there's something going on behind the scenes, and I don't know what it is. And it feels bad to say that, but it's very, very clear something's going on behind the scenes. And yet, I find myself saying, if I'm Man United, I'm dropping something really cheap on Brentford's toes in the final week of the window. I'm saying, and the Independent have literally said it this morning, Man United are considering a loan deal for Ivan Toney with an obligation to buy. I can't knock that because I don't know what the reason is that clubs don't want him. If I did, I'd probably say I wouldn't go anywhere near him. But I don't know what it is. I genuinely don't know what it is. So I think you've got to look at the player and go, goal scorer, could be really cheap. Nobody else wants him. We'll take him on loan off you with an obligation to buy. So I get that. Judging him as a footballer, of course. Why would you not want to do it? But you've also got to realise there's got to be something else going on because it makes no sense why Spurs have gone for Solanke over Toney because Toney's better than Solanke. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Everton did get Jake O'Brien, fantastic player. Says ISO, he is a good signing actually. Sam says, I went to Brentford's friendly last week. Toney played but looked uninterested and lazy. Clearly ready to leave. I'd do it for the right price. There you go, Sam. Thanks for the update there. Appreciate that. So yeah, I think on Ivan Toney, it's just I've got a bit of just, you know, I know Beth and a lot of people in the chat really, really want him, and I respect that. I understand that. I really do. I really, really do. But you know, I worry about these sort of things because we've played the game. We've played the game. We've been in this game long enough to know that, you know, players can have things going off the pitch. Of course they can. And I feel that when you look at that situation, there are London clubs that need strikers that have completely ignored him. Well, what do they know that we might not know? And I don't, you know, it's not fair on Toney in many ways, is it? You know, he went to the, I mean, on the flip side, he went to the bloody Euros with Mr. Conservative Gareth Southgate, who, you know, if there's any trouble, he wouldn't want him anywhere near the squad. So, and also, as I said, we bought Eric Cantona, who nobody else wanted, who was seen as a troublemaker, and he was the catalyst for us winning our first Premier League title. So there are, you know, you can polish a gem that seems like it's troubled. So look, if we sign Ivan Toney, I'll be there, and I think we should all be there going, this is exciting, let's see what happens. But we should also, I also think, what's going on? And I think Patrick makes a great point. Xerxes and Rasmus have to be our future. Ivan Toney can't come in and disrupt that with arrogance and I'm playing every week and upsetting the dressing room. We can't have any of that. You know, this is Manchester United. We're trying to generate a professional dressing room. We don't want to bring somebody in who's a big time Charlie, so to speak, who disrupts that. So all those things need to be factored in, of course. George says 21,000 in here. Drop a like. Biggest football community on the net. Yeah, it's not just Man United, is it? Smash this the shit out of everybody. Well done, everybody. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, we as a community collectively, we get more live viewers than what the mainstream lot do on their lives, whether it's Sky, TalkSport, the lot. It's absolutely incredible. The size of this community and what we've built is unbelievable. Unbelievable. You're absolutely incredible. And very, very welcome. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Don't forget tonight as well, if everything goes to plan, it's a preview of the Fulham game live, which I can't wait to do at 8 o'clock. Why did we have to hurry up and sell a better player in Wan-Bissaka rather than Lindelof or Maguire? Why can't United ban these idiotic pundits who talk crap, says Sandeep? He's just shooting from the hip there. Well, look, Wan-Bissaka went for the exact reason somebody said a few minutes ago. You're only worth what people are willing to pay for you. People want to buy Wan-Bissaka because he's decent. At 26, there's value there. People don't want to buy Maguire on 190k a week at 31, and they don't want to buy Victor Lindelof on 120k a week at 29. But 26-year-old Wan-Bissaka on 50 grand a year, or 60 grand a year, or whatever, there's value because it's a good deal for West Ham. Lionel has gifted 20 memberships. What an absolute legend. Akil says we just need to do our background checks on Toney. That's all that's needed. Thank you very much on that. Abdul spoke about a left back, and he said we need to buy a world-class left back. A lot of teams we don't. So Abdul says we're not just buying a world-class left back. A lot of teams don't have left-footed left backs, so why do we need one? Sancho and Luke Shaw have to go. Stian says, I think that Branthwaite and De Ligt were the priority, but Yoro was an opportunity that opened early in the window and Ineos went for it. I think there's a lot of sense in what you're saying there. I think that De Ligt and Branthwaite were priorities, and I think Yoro was an opportunity too good to come true. But ultimately, I also think that Ineos looked at it and went, we've got to rebuild our centre-back roster. Why not try and do it in one summer? If we're going to do it next summer anyway, why not try and do it in one summer? I think Ineos looked at the back four and went, the only one we want to keep is Martinez. So we need another left footer and 2 right footers. And yeah, normally you do that over 2 or 3 summers. But if we're going to do it anyway, let's get it done now. And I think that's what they've done. I think that's what they're looking to do. I think it's a new world, but it's the world we would operate in. You would do it, I would do it. We need to revolutionize our centre-back roster. Let's do it this summer. But traditionally, under the Glazers, it might take 2 or 3 years, in which time other areas would become priority and you'd never get it done. I think Ineos have gone, if we can solve our centre-back problem in one summer, let's buy 3. How we're going to do it, very interesting. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But as I said, there seems to be some deals that are going to go to the wire. Branthwaite, Sancho to PSG. Maybe Ugarte is going to run that long. The left-back situation. United is making good signings, says Lionel. These De Jong talks are just to drag United into the septic transfer mud. Haters will always be as such. I wonder how they will act if we sign Branthwaite, says Lionel. And I don't want De Jong. For me, I always said there would be a De Jong thumbnail at some point on the United stand. If we can make it to August the 31st without one, I'll be ecstatic. I don't want to be involved in the De Jong deal. I don't want us to sign De Jong because I think it's a load of bollocks, and he never wanted to come anyway. Having said that, let me just say, if De Jong suddenly says, I'll take a pay cut and I want to play for Man United because I've seen the players that are there now, I will change my mind. Irish United fans hate Shaw twice as much now, says MMA Takedown. I don't know why that is. But there you go. Regarding Toney, it could be he has further legal troubles and clubs don't want to get involved with that. Very similar as to why Milan sold Tonali, says Lucius. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to do that. It's not fair on Ivan Toney. It's not fair on, you know, the move that he wants to make. He did play for England in the Euros. So I don't think that there will be resonating bans or issues about to hit, because I think the English FA would know that, and they'd look really stupid if they took him to the Euros if they knew about it. So I don't know what it is, but they're just, maybe it's as simple as Spurs don't want him because he's had the gambling charges in the past and they don't want to run the risk. I don't know, but I do find it weird, and I've said it on the podcast as well, because he's a proven Premier League striker. Would United with panic sell at the end of the window just to balance the books? We haven't sold enough, says Lee. Man United would sell now with panic. They just can't sell. Ryan says, pundits questioning De Ligt while all of the Bayern fans are crying over De Ligt leaving, saying this decision will cost them titles next year, says Ryan. Yeah, but the English media just don't know what they're talking about. I think we all know that. They don't even do their research. They just talk out their arse. A lot of teams don't play left-footed centre-backs, says Abdul. And we've also got, we do need to be cautious so that we've got some money left in January, says Tom Grant. Let me talk about Luke Shaw, because a lot of people have been speaking about that. And obviously, he did feature in that fantastic Originals advert that's just come out from Man United. That would have been before the injury stuff. So Man United still obviously see Luke Shaw as a very, very, very valuable and integral part of their club, that they use him as a, you know, experienced player in an advert. I think that The only thing further I have to say from last night about the Luke Shaw situation is that I do feel very frustrated because he is, to me, one of the best left backs in Europe and therefore one of the world. And we didn't have a left back last season, so all this overlap that helps Rashford out, which I think is a fair point, or any winger out, we don't have now. We don't have a left-footed left back. We don't have one at the moment. And it's the start to another season where we're not ready because our left back's not fit. That left back's Luke Shaw. That frustration is justified. When I see people on social media saying, oh, you know what, all I can think of is how unlucky Luke Shaw is and how bad I feel for him. Well done you for being so empathetic and putting a well-paid footballer ahead of what's best for the football club. And I'm not saying that with any sarcasm. I'm saying fair play. You're a very, very giving and compassionate person. But I don't feel sorry for Luke Shaw. I'm sorry, I don't. Because it's very, very simple. I feel sorry for us. I feel sorry for Ten Hag. I feel sorry for Manchester United. We have a season about to start and we've got no bloody left back again. And I guarantee you now, the conversations will have taken... I mean, somebody said this last night, and I can't remember whether this happened, but apparently Luke Shaw took an indirect at Man United around how he got injured in February because the medical staff forced him back too early. I don't remember that story. Maybe I'm being a bit player FC there because I like Luke Shaw, but I don't remember that story. Apparently Luke Shaw took an indirect at United's medical staff by saying they rushed him back too soon in February. And yet he himself rushes himself back way too soon to wear an England shirt and is now injured for Manchester United. So I don't feel sorry for him. I don't think he's injured himself on purpose. I'm not saying that. I repeat, I like the player, and I'm not saying he's injured himself on purpose. But I would argue with anybody who sat there saying it's just bad luck and I really feel sorry for him. I'd argue this with anybody. If he hadn't have gone to the Euros, the chances he's fit on Friday are massive. Absolutely massive. By going and rushing yourself to go and play in them Euros, you have massively led to this injury that you've got now. 100%. 100%. Your body is not relaxed, recuperated, and it's not had a pre-season. And we can all pretend we know about sports science, but bottom line is, if he doesn't go to the Euros, FA Cup final at the end of May, off you go on your holidays for a month, light training in Dubai, whatever, back into Carrington at the start of July, doing all your fitness tests and everything like that, steadily working through pre-season, ready for the start of the season. As opposed to rushing yourself back from a bad injury, going into an intense training environment with the best players from the country, into a huge tournament that doesn't finish till the middle of July, a quick couple of weeks holiday, then straight into pre-season to be ready for the start of the season. Come on. Come on. Just listen to what I've just said there. The contrast between the two. A couple of months of building towards the start of the new season against Fulham with lots of rest and relaxation, or come off the back of a bad injury, rushing to play in a major tournament and then barely any preparation for a new season and you've done a calf injury. And you want to feel sorry for him. Come on. He's taken a risk and it's backfired massively. And then we're meant to sit there and go, oh, it's just so bad luck. It's not bad luck. I'm a massive Luke Shaw fan. It ain't bad luck. It's completely and utterly the opposite of bad luck. It's what you call Russian roulette. It's taking a risk where the risk is massive that you will get injured. And it's backfired. That's what's happened. And people have got every right to be frustrated. Every right to be frustrated. So no, I don't agree with people saying anybody can get injured. It's just bad luck. It's not. There's circumstances. If I sit at home watching Netflix, then the chances of me pulling my hamstring are much less than me getting up and running round the block all day whilst drinking cans of Carling. It's not bad luck, is it? I should have stayed at home watching Netflix. Like, there are definitely factors as to why Luke Shaw got injured. And I can't move. I you know, some people might say, well, you're a massive fan of Luke Shaw. I am a massive fan of Luke Shaw, but I'm also not Player FC. I'm Man United FC. And I know I said it. Sometimes I forget I say things, but I know I said it at the start of June. I said, it's all well and good in playing for England in the Euros, but he's taking a massive risk because it looks like he's putting country ahead of club. And if you do that, you've got to be starting the season with Man United and not getting injured before Christmas. He's not even starting the season. So, never bite the hand that feeds you, says Lord Rogers. It is so frustrating with Shaw, says Sticks, but knowing what he can do is hard to go past. Akil says, what if Ineos plan to sell some players in January and before June 2025 to balance the books? I'm a bit sceptical about this. Hopefully no FFP issue. Welcome to the Members Club, Penadon. And Alex says, Mark, what is the max you will allow for Toney wage? I've heard he wants north of 200k per week. Is that not what the problem is? Ooh, Alex. Great point. Maybe Alex has just solved the problem that seemed hard. Maybe it's got nothing to do with off-field antics. Maybe it's because Ivan Toney wants ridiculous wages. I mean, it's a good... Alex, fair play. That's why I love the community, because sometimes you get locked in on what's the problem that you miss a quite obvious football problem. Maybe Ivan Toney just wants stupid wages. Maybe that is it. I don't know. Good point. MMA Takedown says, last pre-season game in Ireland, Shaw snubbed the game and posted how pre-season was over. Now he's pitched England over United. He's as solid as Malacia, says MMA Takedown. Would you have taken Toney over Xerxes, says Grace. I'm going to run a poll on that, Grace, because I think that's a horrible question, but therefore it's a good question. I think it's a great question, Grace. Ivan Toney's a proven goal scorer and he's experienced. So if you'd have said to me at the start of June, would I take Toney or Xerxes? I guarantee you Beth would have took Toney. I think some of you would have took Toney. I think I would have gone with Xerxes because I prioritise Rasmus as our starting striker. And I always said I'm quite comfortable with us bringing in a younger striker to work with Rasmus rather than an experienced striker to bench Rasmus. So I think I would have gone Xerxes, in my opinion. Yeah. But a good question. We need to be cautious. So Tom Grant, we've done that one. Thank you. Did United have a say on Shaw going to the Euros, says Steve? Well, proper journalism would do an article on this, but proper journalism doesn't exist in the UK because it's all about backhanders and protection. So I don't think we'll get the article. But as I said before, you know, what is United's role in Luke Shaw? Because we should have said no. I don't know why we didn't say no. Sir Alex Ferguson never would have let that happen. I mean, God, I wouldn't let that happen. You've not played for Man United since February. You're not fit for the FA Cup final, but you want to go and start training with England next week and go to the Euros and play intense football for 4 weeks. No, you're not going, mate. I don't know whether it's in his contract, but absolutely no. We shouldn't. Man United has to take some responsibility. That's why we did the poll yesterday. Who's at fault, the player or the club? The player should put the club before the country in that situation, but the club has to have an involvement in it as well. Areg, welcome to Members Club. Great question there, though, from Steve Woodley. Look, all I'll say is, and I'll say it again, would you get as many people coming out saying, I just feel so bad for Luke Shaw, it's such bad luck? Would you get those same people coming out if it was Paul Pogba in his final year? I don't think you would. Paul Pogba got booed by people at Old Trafford. If Paul Pogba did that in his final year, you wouldn't get people going, I just feel sorry for Paul Pogba. You wouldn't. And the media, Souness would be saying to Talk Sport, I played the game. I know I only work on Monday, but I'm coming in today for free. Terrible accent, but you know you what? They'd be absolutely queuing up to have a pop at him. Anyway, cracking show again this morning. So we've spoken in summary. Sancho wants to go to PSG, but it's expected to not be a quick deal. There's a lot of barriers there. Ugarte wants Man United and he's waiting on us. We want him. PSG want to sell him, but we need to sell to buy or get the price down. Branthwaite could go to the wire. Third bid still very likely to go in the final few days of the transfer window. Keep an eye on that one. Fofana is dead in the water as a transfer. It was never serious, according to Fabrizio, and he is going to go to AC Milan. United clearly been used to try and force Milan's hand on that one. And Ivan Toney being discussed as a potential late deal as well. Even talk of a loan with an obligation to buy. And Luke Shaw. Obviously, the conversation goes on. Thank you, everybody, this morning. Absolutely brilliant. We will have a 2 o'clock show for you. Of course, if anything breaks, we'll go live as well. And tonight, I don't mind if we change the show, but the plan tonight, we will be live at 8 o'clock. And the plan tonight is to do that preview for Fulham, because Manchester United will be playing on Friday night, which is 2 days away. Bring it on. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Absolute legends. Please subscribe on the way out. I've got a video on Man City getting relegated going up on That's Football in about 9 minutes as well. Make sure you check out that. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit. And I tell you what, that preview will be very interesting tonight, because the back four could end up with Martinez in it because of Luke Shaw's injury, which is an absolute gutter. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit. Stay safe.